accursed caster, scatter, stacker, tasker, taxer, spark crops, sprock, scarp parks. These are tongue twisters for sure, but there's something extra special about them. These tongue twisters are mathematically perfect because each word uses exactly the same sounds but in a different order, like anagrams but for sounds. I call these anaphones, and in order to understand them, we need to go back and understand properties of words. What are the properties of words? Words were invented to convey meaning. But in order to convey words with one another, we need to decide on how to write them, which is how we see words, or how to pronounce them, which is how we hear words. As far as I know, though, there's no way to smell or taste words. Although I guess you could say that Braille is a way to touch words. Historically, people have been interested in words that have equal properties. If two words have the same meaning, like start and begin, we call them synonyms, literally together name. If two words have the same spelling, like tear a piece of paper and tear what comes out of you when you cry, we call them homographs, literally same writing. And if words have the same pronunciation, like there, and there, we call them homophones, literally same sound. There's an entire categorization of what to call a word depending on which of those properties it shares, but I don't want to get into that. Instead, I'd like to focus on what it means for those properties to be the same. Of course, tear and tear have the same spelling, but listen and silent do not. But what if I relaxed what I meant by same? What if, instead of saying that two words have the same spelling if they have the same letters in the same order, I instead only required that they have the same letters, regardless of the order? In that case, the picture looks more like this. All of a sudden, listen and silent are the same. In mathematics, it's extremely common to do this kind of thing. Expand your notion of what it means for two things to be equal. The way that mathematically you relax your notion of when two things are equal or the same is by defining what's called an equivalence relation. If I declare that any two words that have the same letters regardless of their order are equivalent, then I would call two equivalent words anagrams, literally a new writing. Two words are anagrams if and only if I can rearrange the letters of one to get the other. Some examples might be brainy and binary, restful and fluster, and Tokyo and Kyoto. But notice, even though these words use the same letters, they don't use the same sounds. For example, the U in restful sounds like but the U in fluster sounds like What if, instead of looking at words that had the same letters in them, I wanted words that had the same sounds in them? Well, first I would have to decide on what I mean by a sound, and thankfully that's already been done. The individual components that make up sounds, like letters make up words, are called phonemes. And just like we can use a regular keyboard to put letters together, we can use a phonetic keyboard to put phonemes together. You're definitely not expected to be able to pronounce these just by looking at them. But for most of them, if something looks like an English letter that you already know, then it's probably a variation of how you pronounce that letter. Let's take a look at the phonemes for our anagrams. Brainy, binary, restful, fluster, Tokyo, Kyoto. This is how these words are spelled using phonemes. And looking at the phonemes, we can see that none of these words use exactly the same sounds as their pair. So what do you call two words that have the same phonemes, but not necessarily in the same order? That is, what should I call a phonetic anagram? If there are any linguists in the audience, I would really like to know if there's already a word for this. I wasn't able to find it. So instead of calling them anagrams, I'm going to call them anaphones. Literally a new sound. So what did I do to find those tongue twisters? I started with a phonetic dictionary, and I considered every word and every pronunciation. Then I grouped them together by which ones have the same phonemes, regardless of the order. These are some anaphones that I found. Presta petrus separate oppressed parrots. Accursed caster, scatter stacker tasker taxer. Spark crops sprock scarp parks. Raucous across orcus chorus. Furnace fustner furson snuffer suffern. Tennis unset senate assent. Cancel slacken classin laxin scallon. These are mathematically perfect tongue twisters. They literally twist your tongue to make the same noises but in a different order over and over. And I think that's kind of cool. So I made an entire dictionary of these anaphones and put a link to it in the description. You can also find the Python source code that I used to create this dictionary. In any case, there are a lot of fun ones, so post your favorites in the description, and if you can, try to make sentences out of them. Hey, thanks for watching everyone. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my patrons and donors. I just started my Patreon, so thank you to these people for really getting the ball rolling, being those first few people to sign up. It means a lot to me to see so many people jump on it so quickly, so thank you again. And I'm sure all of these people have already done this, but if you watched all the way to the end, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.